Welcome back to the Ignore the Tablet podcast. We are back. We're back from hibernation. My name is Devin, and this is the only FPL podcast on the entire internet hosted by me, of course. And today we are going to be mostly talking about the fixtures that have been announced. We are less than 60 days out from the beginning of the Premier League season. So we'll be talking about the fixtures, teams that we may start to target. Of course, prices aren't out, players aren't, the game isn't available, but there's plenty to talk about just fixture related. And separate to that, I did want to come back from this little brief hibernation to say that I've done some thinking about the podcast, how I want it to look going forward, and some updates. So we're going to start with updates, but I hope you're going to stay tuned for all the fixture discussion. And am I excited about the new Premier League / FPL season? I don't know, but I am a sucker. And as soon as I saw those fixtures, I gotta admit I was a little interested. So let's start with some updates. And as always, chapter markers, all the good stuff, information will be in the description. Check it out. So I'll do my best to be brief with the updates, because who gives a flying fart about an update? But this is an opportunity for you to give feedback. If you are invested into this podcast and want to see it run a certain way, if you agree and disagree with how I think the vision of the podcast will be looking moving forward, definitely let me know. I am available on Discord, Reddit, potentially a new platform, YouTube. There's so many avenues to yell at me, so feel free to get your feedback in and let your comments be heard. But the main thing is that after sitting with how I felt the podcast went this past season, and keep in mind, I am a brand new FPL podcaster. I'm a brand new podcaster. This first and only podcast. First season I did this, and so I've only been doing this 2 seasons, by the way. The first season I did this, I kind of did more like special episodes, 1 a week, kind of deep dives. And then in the second season, I did what I think is a massive expansion, where I was doing a weekly league where prizes were dispensed out if my free hit team failed to beat the official FPL scout team each week. And then there was a year, like the overall season league. On top of that, I was much more closely following how my team did and like tracking how my team did, etc. And the main thing that I thought about was, you know, at work when it's like, this meeting could have been an email. That was the thought that I just cannot get out of my head. So I was thinking, what is a way I can take all of that fluff that is probably not vital to doing well in FPL and just put that in an area where people can read it if they feel like it, or they could just glance as they please, scroll it, and check it out in that way. And this is where the idea of a Substack infected my brain. So for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, you will see there is a beautiful Substack display on my screen. It is ignorethetemplate.substack.com in case you're curious. And for the time being, it only has my podcast. I'm able to link the podcast RSS straight to Substack. So if Substack is actually your preferred method of viewing and listening to podcasts, you can check out the podcast through the Substack free of charge. Another thing that I know, Substack has a lot of paywalls and subscription fees. I'm not doing any of that. There's no plans for any paywalls or anything like that. That is not the incentive to go to Substack. Substack was just a way to kind of like Discord, I guess, post my thoughts. And I was thinking this would be kind of an organized way to, I can put my team up, do a little write up. I can post the competition award winners each week. And that could be the place to go, where if you want to see if you won a particular week, you could just jump straight to the Substack instead of trying to jump through Discord and et cetera, or having to listen through podcasts, heaven forbid, on a podcast. But I just figured this was kind of an opportunity to use a platform that I have no knowledge about, or very limited knowledge about. But I think there's a good opportunity for a lot of the content that, again, I think was added fluff. And I don't mean it in that sense, like I didn't enjoy doing it, etc. But there's just extra stuff that I think is not pertinent to doing well in FPL. And I'm more excited and interested to do deep dives, statistical comparisons. That was really the point of the podcast. And then season 2, as much as I enjoyed my second podcasting season, it just kind of felt like everyone else's content. Part of that was probably because of how the game was structured, the pricing. You guys have heard me complain about that plenty, but the other part was in format. It was much more similar to what is out there on YouTube, on different podcast platforms. I would definitely suggest continuing to go through that if that's kind of your vibe. But if you want to read team updates and that kind of stuff on Substack, I'll have that as well. So I'm not getting rid of anything. This will only be an additive. So that is really the main update for me pertaining to FPL. And as you will also know, if you are a listener of this podcast, there have been several Liverpool special episodes. And while I may still do YouTube videos on Liverpool, doing statistical breakdowns, putting out my thoughts, Substack is actually kind of a good place for that as well. So I've actually made my first post on this entirely new profile. Well, it's linked to my Ignore the Template profile on Substack, but the Kop End Theory, an homage to my favorite album, the Low End Theory. And this will be where all of my Liverpool Football Club shower thoughts, shower stats as well will go. I've made my first post, and that URL, which again, all this should be in the description. Hopefully I remember to do that. kopendtheory.substack.com. So feel free to check that out. I'll be making posts periodically about Liverpool on that profile, and all the FPL stuff will go on the Ignore the Template profile. So there'll be 2 distinct profiles under one account. Again, I'm still kind of new to Substack, so if I'm messing something up, please let me know. I'm probably going to put a Liverpool post on the FPL profile and a FPL post on the Liverpool profile, and it will just be the joy of being an idiot. But so that was another opportunity I wanted to do, something a little bit different, because I know not everybody's going to be tuned into the Liverpool stuff. So maybe more Liverpool thoughts will be directed to the Substack, and we can kind of keep this channel a little bit more clean for FPL. So hopefully I didn't bury the lead in all of those updates, but the main thing is I really want to return to kind of how I did the podcast in season 1, where it was more deep dives, seeing XG overperformers, XA overperformers, underperformers. And I know that was kind of sprinkled in throughout all of my podcasts last season, but it just felt more shallow, I think. And maybe this is just my memory of what season 1 podcast was like, but I want to return to that, where I can hopefully do more interesting takes on some of these things, instead of just, here are the players I recommend, here are the players I don't recommend, here's why. I felt like the analysis on my end was a little bit shallow last season, and I want to improve on that. So hopefully creating the Substacks, which again, don't pay any subscription fee, just follow. All the posts should be on there for free. If anything changes with that in the future, I'll definitely let you know, but there's literally no plan. I've got no user base crying out for paid content, so why would I do that? That would make no sense. So really that's what I wanted to update the podcast and all of you on about. Discord will still be there, like this. If you're on YouTube, you can see the Discord. Got a great community there. It's a small and mighty community, but yeah, there will still be posts, comments, chat. Everything will be there. There is a chat on Substack, but yeah, I have no idea how that's going to function. Maybe for now, if you want to join the community on like a chat basis, Discord is probably the place for you. If you want to view team updates and weekly winners of the prize for the competitions that I may or may not, well, I will have some sort of a competition, but you know what I mean. If you want to see who won the weekly competition, Substack will probably be the place for that. And then the podcast will be more dedicated content to FPL statistics, doing more deep dives, maybe on like specific players or specific teams. The possibilities are endless. So I think that should cover the updates. Everything else should be business as usual. I'm still playing with the idea of maybe doing 2 podcasts a week, 1 a week. I think in the deep dive format of my first season in podcasting, 1 a week just felt better, and I think that's the direction I'm leaning towards. But again, this is a place for you to provide feedback. If you have any comments on what you think would be best or what you would prefer, let me know. But let's jump over to the fixtures, because we've got the Opta fixture difficulty, and we can kind of start to dive into who's got the best and worst fixtures for the start of the 2026-2027 FPL EPL season. Okay, and as always, for the audio only folks, I'll try to be as descriptive as possible, but I am on the Opta analyst. They made some sort of post about the opening fixture difficulty for the upcoming season. And if you're totally unfamiliar with the Opta analyst, how they do the like fixture difficulty, I don't know what the scale is, but the higher the number goes up, the more difficult your opponents are, and the lower, obviously, the easiest. So over the first 5 game weeks, we can see the top 5 teams with the most difficult fixtures, according to the Opta analyst, is Bournemouth number 1. They play Man City away, Everton home, Newcastle away, Brentford at home, Liverpool at home. Understandably pretty difficult, especially with Man City away. The next most difficult is Sunderland, then Coventry City, new to the Premier League, or at least new for the past like 10-15 years. Brighton, Spurs, and that caps the top 5 for the most difficult fixtures. And then for the most easy fixtures, Manchester United, they play Hull City away, Ipswich at home, Everton away, which I think that's challenging. Man City at home, another challenging one, but at least at home. And then Fulham away, which I think is kind of difficult. Do I 100% agree with the rankings? I got to be honest, I think there's probably room for a little bit of movement, but full faith in the Opta analyst. The second most easy fixtures is Newcastle, then Liverpool, then Brentford, and then Crystal Palace. I think tops out the top 5 easiest in the next 5. I want to shout out 1 or 2 that I think could be a little bit higher or lower depending on your perspective, but Ipswich, I think, have a very difficult first 5 run of matches. They play Sunderland at home, which not terrible, Manchester United away, Liverpool at home, Crystal Palace away, and Everton away. So they've got 3 away fixtures, 2 home matches, one of which is Sunderland, the other one is Liverpool. So I think Ipswich you could make an argument, especially based on their team strength, that they should maybe be closer to completely avoid over the first 5 fixtures, I should say. And who were the ones that looked like they had easier fixtures? I think you could easily argue Man City. They play Bournemouth at home, Crystal Palace away. That's not easy. Coventry at home, Manchester United away. Not easy. Then Sunderland home. Maybe not the easiest, but I think there's some argument based on their team strength that they should do pretty well with all of them. Arsenal kind of in a similar boat. They play Coventry at home, Aston Villa away. That will be tough. Chelsea at home will be tough. Sunderland away will be tough. Yeah, maybe I'm actually reneging on that. Brighton away, who knows? Liverpool, I think. Liverpool and Manchester United, I think, do have the easiest fixtures. They're on paper. Liverpool play Newcastle away, Nottingham Forest at home, Ipswich away, Fulham at home, Bournemouth away. So they were in the top three, or the third most easy fixtures, but I'd probably put them closer to Manchester United, who I think also, we've already read those out. I think they've got some easy fixtures. So what does this mean from an FPL standpoint? So there's a couple thoughts that come straight to my mind. One thing is that, and I think this is really important to take into account, is like we've got especially at the time being where we haven't seen any preseason, the World Cup is still in full swing. Teams have, at the time of recording, most of the teams have played their second match, but we're not even through the group stage. So a lot of players and a lot of time in between now and the end of the World Cup for players to get injured, all sorts of nonsense. I think some teams still don't even have a manager. Like, did Marco Silva move from Fulham? I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, I think there's a couple of teams without managers. There's a lot of teams with new managers. So most notably, I think Bournemouth was some of the most difficult fixtures, and they're going to have a new manager. We all highly rate Andoni Iraola, especially as a Liverpool fan. Now that he's the new head coach, I think he did wonders for Bournemouth. And while Bournemouth have pretty much a flawless record of being able to recruit both head coaches and players, I think there is somewhat of a question. It's definitely more of a question mark than if they still had Andoni Iraola. So I think that would be an avoid. Liverpool, of course, now have Andoni Iraola. Would I avoid Liverpool players at the start of the season because we're not entirely sure how they're going to play under Iraola compared to how they played with Slot, which was very different stylistically? I think maybe I wouldn't entirely avoid. It's going to come down to prices and basically price points of players. Maybe there's different position changes. Like don't even want to say, but if Gakpo is like a forward versus a midfielder, that may play on the mind a little bit depending on the price. So not a total avoid of Liverpool, but I would be cautious, I think. Even though I rate Iraola very highly, we saw when he took over for Bournemouth, there was an adjustment period. I think they lost their first 5 or 7 games or something like that. So there's going to be, especially at a larger club with players who are probably more stubborn and set in their ways of how they want to play, I think there will be an adaptation period. So I would be cautious about Liverpool despite the relatively easy fixtures. Now, Manchester United are on the complete polar opposite of that. They have appointed Carrick, who they had for the better part of last season, and the better part is putting it lightly in terms of how they played, because as soon as he started playing players in their natural positions, surprise, Manchester United started playing better. Now, there will be some key omissions like Casemiro, which I think was surprisingly a huge part of that Manchester United team. He is not going to be there, but I think by and large, the team will mostly be the same. They will probably hope to bring in some new players, maybe a central midfielder, I think. I mean, they would love to have Elliot Anderson, wouldn't they? As would everybody, but, yeah, so we'll stay tuned to that, but I think Manchester United will be a good bet, especially over the first 3. Hull, Ipswich, Everton. I think a lot of people will be targeting that set of 3 fixtures, and maybe it's not a bad idea to do an early wild card. Every time I've done an early wild card, it's massively benefited me, and I don't think it's like necessarily a correlation equals causation type thing, but each season's a little bit different and we'll have to play it by ear. I wouldn't rule out an early wild card though. And you can kind of lump into the same boat Arsenal to some degree. I think obviously they won the league comfortably at the end of it. Well, maybe not, but defensively, they're going to still be basically the same force that they've been for the past 3 seasons, maybe even more so. And they play Coventry at home for the first match. They're going to want to make a statement piece then. Yeah, match week 2 or game week 2 and game week 3 and even game week 4 will be a little bit more difficult with Aston Villa away, Chelsea at home, Sunderland away. But that Arsenal team is basically going to be the same. I would anticipate them signing a left winger, maybe Bradley Barcola. I'm surprised they're not in for Gian Diomande because I think, great player, heavily linked with Liverpool and PSG. I think he would be amazing at Arsenal, honestly. As we know, even though he has played on the right wing for Leipzig, he's right-footed. He plays on the left wing for Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, I think. So, yeah, I think Arsenal first match week will be a very popular team. I think a lot of people will likely have Gabriel, depending on the price. They'll likely have some sort of Arsenal midfielder like a Declan Rice, Saka, depending on the price point and depending on his fitness. So I could very easily see people having 3 Arsenal players game week 1, 2 defenders, midfielder. That probably is what's going to happen. Let's be real. And I'll just kind of end this segment on a couple completely scattered thoughts. But as I kind of talked about, team stability, I think, will play into my thinking in terms of picking FPL players. But Chelsea, new manager, but their fixtures look pretty decent. They play Fulham away, which historically would be a difficult one, but no Marco Silva, I imagine. Then they play Brighton at home. Arsenal away will be tough, but then they have Hull City at home and then Brentford away across their first 5. So I'm very curious to see how Chelsea will set up. Will they start with the back 3 playing wing backs that he saw was very successful at Leverkusen, or will he play a back 4, which he played at Real Madrid, which I think the circumstance was really difficult to judge, but we'll see. I mean, Chelsea have been playing a back 4 under Maresca and the countless other managers they've had since Maresca. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they set up. Anybody who knows, I highly, highly rate Xabi Alonso. I think he's going to do a great job at Chelsea as manager, not head coach. So we'll see how that one goes. Aston Villa, I feel like, are kind of in a similar boat as Chelsea. They've got Brighton away, then they play Arsenal at home, which will be a tough one. But then they play Hull City away, Nottingham Forest at home, Tottenham away. We did see Aston Villa start very, very slowly last season. Was that summer hangover? I don't know. Yeah, and they performed brilliantly the second half of the season. Probably one of the best teams in the second half of the season. So I guess the question is, will that form continue into the start of this season, or will they start slow like they did last season? They obviously still have Unai Emery, who I think is one of the best managers in the entire league. And yeah, just there's a lot of uncertainty. I think that is the biggest term for the start of this FPL season. Not just because we don't have player prices, we don't know what chips are going to be, but so many top level coaches have changed hands. So Liverpool, I'm just reading through Crystal Palace, maybe not one of the top teams, but they're not going to have Glasner anymore. Man City, massive seat change. Chelsea, Fulham, Spurs. I mean, De Zerbi did take over at the end of the season, looked really, really good. They've got some challenging fixtures though. I take that back. I wouldn't sleep on Spurs under De Zerbi. He did really, really well with that Spurs team, and I only think that they're going to go up from there. So Brentford away, Newcastle at home, Nottingham Forest away, Everton at home, Aston Villa at home. Those are not bad across the first 5. Brighton have the same manager. Sunderland, I'm going to be very curious to see how they do. Like, it's one thing to go and make a huge stamp on your first season back in the Premier League, especially with all those signings. The goal for them will be maintenance. Like, can they maintain this level? Which I think their home performances and their stadium and their crowd will be a huge boon, but it's always the follow-up. The sequel is always more challenging than the original. So we'll see how Sunderland do. And then Bournemouth, I think, are, again, like I've said, a huge question mark without Areola. I wouldn't sleep on them. I think I made the mistake of downplaying how Brentford might do last season, which they did brilliantly because they've got a brilliant structure, and they're like, hey, this guy, he's already here, set piece coach. Let's see how he does as a head coach. And he did brilliantly following Thomas Frank. And then Thomas Frank has subsequently done horrible at Tottenham. So I wouldn't anticipate Bournemouth to drop off massively, but it is a question mark. I think it has to be. So that is going to wrap the podcast today. I know it's going to be probably on the shorter side. I never know how these things add up. I should have a better system, but we will be in temporary hibernation, I think, until the start of the season. However, stay tuned, subscribe if you want to just watch those podcasts drop into your feed. We're on YouTube. We're across all the podcast networks. We're on Substack now. So stay tuned and subscribe, follow, whatever, all that freaking nonsense. You know what I'm talking about. But there will be some podcasts to come from now until the start of the season. I'm definitely going to have a podcast on how to improve FPL. I'm going to break down all of my opinions, pull out some stats, and that should be a very thorough podcast and highly hated. I'm expecting a lot of hate, as I did last season when I put out a similar podcast. So that one will be out when prices get announced, of course. When the World Cup finishes, I'll probably have a podcast. And then I always love to do this. It's not really FPL specific, but I like to put my neck out on the line and do some predictions on how I think the table is going to lie at the end of next season, at the end of 2027, I should say. So all of those podcasts and probably more that I'm drawing a blank on, stay tuned for it. And until then, have a good one. Enjoy the World Cup, and I'll see you next time. Bye.